In recent years, international anti-LGBTQ+ and anti-abortion organizations have shifted focus, extending their influence beyond Europe and the US to countries in East Africa. These groups, originally part of the Agenda Europe network, have worked through campaigns and lobbying efforts to shape legislation and social norms, intensifying opposition to LGBTQ+ and reproductive rights. This video explores how these networks have embedded themselves in African societies, fueling discrimination and amplifying conservative agendas with significant, often dangerous, implications for LGBTQ communities. When prominent anti-abortion and conservative campaigners from Europe and the US gathered in London in 2013, they set out to build a think tank with sweeping influence. Their goal? To reshape reproductive LGBTQ+ and gender rights policies across Europe. This was the beginning of Agenda Europe, a network aimed at rolling back progressive rights. Within 3 years, Agenda Europe expanded its reach beyond Europe, eyeing East Africa. By this time, Uganda has passed its 2014 anti-gay law, though it was soon annulled by the Constitutional Court. Nonetheless, Uganda and neighboring countries presented an opportunity for Agenda Europe to push its conservative agenda on sexual health and rights. Leaked emails obtained by Open Democracy reveal the inner workings of Agenda Europe's outreach. Between 2013 and 2019, as membership grew to 400, Agenda Europe members crafted campaigns, spread disinformation, and lobbied African leaders. Many messages shared were sensational, designed to provoke fear and mistrust of LGBTQ+ communities among African allies. One example was a 2016 email in which a member falsely claimed that Swedish politicians advocating for LGBTQ+ rights were also promoting incest and necrophilia. The sender, Stefano Gennarini, a legal studies vice president at the US-based group CFAM, suggested this inflammatory disinformation would be very helpful with Asians and Africans. CFAM, labeled as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center, played a significant role in Agenda Europe. CFAM's director, Austin Roos, even suggested that Africa should be a primary target because conservative attitudes there were more receptive than those in Europe. Roos believed Africa's anti-queer momentum made it an ideal focus for their efforts. Roos also sought connections with so-called friendly African organizations, offering to help them access US federal funding. To African civil rights campaigners, these tactics are part of a long-standing problem. Groups like Agenda Europe export new colonialist influences, backing anti-queer legislation in ways that undermine democracy in the global south. According to Amnesty International, 31 African countries still criminalize same-sex relationships, with colonial-era laws bolstered by new anti-LGBTQ+ measures. As Ola Bukunula Williams from the Uganda-based NGO Akina Mama wa Africa stated, the struggle for freedom did not end with independence. It is a continued struggle. She highlights how patriarchy, imperialism, and capitalism work together, reinforcing oppressive systems that these foreign conservative groups now seek to leverage. Originally, Agenda Europe did not focus on LGBTQ+ issues in Africa, but that changed in 2015 when Sharon Slater, founder of Family Watch International, joined the network. Known for her anti-sex education stance, Slater's influence in the group grew. In 2016, she shared her documentary The War on Children in Uganda, claiming it exposed how sex education sexualizes children. The film stirred controversy in Uganda and was even shown in the early 2020s on a Ugandan Christian TV program that invited local anti-LGBTQ+ activists to praise its claims about supposed dangers of LGBTQ+ people targeting children. However, research from reputable organizations like the American Psychological Association shows that LGBTQ+ people do not abuse or recruit children at higher rates than heterosexual people, directly refuting these claims. Ugandan LGBTQ activist Frank Mugisha describes how Western organizations have spurred Ugandans into extreme positions, influencing anti-queer laws. He recalls Later's ties with Pastor Martin Sampa, a vocal supporter of Uganda's 2014 anti-gay bill. Although Family Watch International distanced itself from Sampa, Slater continued promoting similar views, even attending a 2023 conference urging Ugandan President Museveni to endorse conversion therapy, a discredited and harmful practice. Uganda is not alone. Tanzania and Burundi have also seen increased anti-LGBTQ crackdowns, with Tanzania setting up a surveillance squad in 2018 to target gay individuals. Mugisha explains that much of this momentum stems from Western influence, specifically from US-based conservative groups. The 2016 US presidential election marked a pivotal moment for Agenda Europe's ambitions in Africa. Following Donald Trump's win, network members, including Trump's then-lawyer John Eastman, strategized ways to leverage this victory. Trump advisors Steve Bannon and Kellyanne Conway were cited as close allies by CFAM's Ruse, who discussed a letter to Trump from African leaders protesting LGBTQ rights. Claire Byarugaba of Chapter 4 Uganda, a civil rights organization, argues this foreign influence shows that homophobia, not homosexuality, is un-African. Meanwhile, Brown from the World Congress of Families dismissed inquiries from Open Democracy as Soros shills, echoing anti-Semitic conspiracy theories commonly used by the far right. Among the most vocal Agenda Europe members targeting Africa were Slater, Ruse, and Ignacio Arzuaga, founder of Citizen Go. In Kenya, Citizen Go has rallied against abortion, LGBTQ rights, and sex education. In 2018, they drove an anti-transgender bus across Nairobi, using similar messages as those promoted in Europe and the US. In 2019, the Kenyan High Court upheld the country's anti-LGBTQ laws. The following year, Member of Parliament Peter Kaluma proposed a bill to further restrict LGBTQ rights, with support from Citizen Go's online petitions. Agenda Europe officially disbanded in 2019, rebranding as the Vision Network. This shift followed a damning report by the European Parliamentary Forum for Sexual and Reproductive Rights, which exposed the network's efforts to undermine LGBTQ+ and women's rights. The Vision Network continues its work in Africa, as evidenced by increasing budgets among US-based Agenda Europe members. An analysis by Open Democracy shows these groups spend $2.9 million in Africa from 2015 to 2022, often with limited transparency. Family Watch International and CFAN declined to comment for Open Democracy's report. The impact of their activities, however, remains visible across East Africa, as they continue to shape legislation and fuel anti-LGBTQ+ sentiment across the region.